here I would like to ask for our long-standing friend, John Clark, from Coalition Against Poverty. Please come here and deliver your speech.
Thank you very, very much, comrades. It's wonderful to be invited. It was great to see and hear the reports of struggles on Mayday taking place in Iran and in other countries. This year, I don't know if you've encountered it very much, but I've come across a term that is being used a great deal by apologists for this system. And the term is enlightened capitalism. There is this notion that capitalism can be repackaged in ways that will make it kinder and gentler and more humane. And probably in Canada we are cursed with a particularly cynical representative of that trend in the form of Justin Trudeau and the government that exists here, that poses as a force for progressive values while in fact going in the complete opposite direction. And many of the institutions of global capitalism have latched onto this idea of a new enlightened capitalism. The World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, people who are dripping in blood, but who nonetheless are posing as a born-again progressive value people. And this, I think, is dispelled by the actual reality of what we are seeing. We are seeing intensified exploitation. We are seeing brutal measures of austerity internationally. We are seeing the intensification of what has become known as endless war on a global scale. And we are seeing rampant environmental disaster unfolding. On the exploitation front, almost to time itself almost with the advent of Mayday, the World Bank issued a report in which it called for minimum wages and employment standards and workers' rights to be eliminated on a global scale. All such measures that would restrict exploitation should be removed, and in its place should be put something that they call basic income. The idea being that somewhat better paid workers out of their taxes would provide a subsidy to low wage employers to keep alive the workers who they had turned into a powerless, elastic, precarious, low wage workforce. At the same time, Amazon, owned by the wealthiest person on the planet, Jeff Bezos, are so developing their capacity to exploit workers that they are experimenting with a bracelet that workers will wear in their workhouses that will steer people in the direction of where they need to go and will give them warning jolts if they go in the wrong direction. An absolutely chilling dystopian vision of the future being proposed under capitalism. When it comes to exploitation here, a particularly chilling note in the last couple of weeks. The Trudeau government talks of its progressive values, and to deal with Canadian mining companies, it has established what it calls an ombudsman for responsible enterprise to try to control the rapacious exploitative instincts of the Canadian mining companies. This last week, a woman from Papua New Guinea came to the annual general meeting of Barrick Gold Resources and actually spelt out the horrors that were being inflicted on her community and her people by a Canadian mining company. When it comes to austerity, measures of austerity and social cutbacks are now a global phenomenon being intensified. When it comes to endless war, capitalism's capacity for militarism and destruction is reaching levels that would have been unimaginable in previous decades. The Canadian government, headed by a so-called progressive, has announced that the military budget in this country will be increased by 70%. On a global scale, the Pentagon is now saying that the war on terror is out of date, that they are moving towards full-scale, big power rivalry to unleash the dogs of war on a scale that's unimaginable. And of course, Iran is in the crosshairs of that imperialist appetite. A great threat to Iran is now posed by Western imperialism. Although let me hastily say that in saying that and deploring the threat of Western intervention, in no way do I subscribe to the brand of so-called anti-imperialism that suggests that the Iranian working class should put the class struggle on hold. We fully support struggles of Iranian workers against the repressive and exploitative government that exists in Iran, and we celebrate all the struggles against wage theft. We applaud and stand in solidarity with those who face hellish jail conditions for their working class struggles. The struggle of the Iranian working class must be fully supported. Let me just say, when it comes to environmental degradation, in this country they are proposing to build a pipeline to transport the dirtiest oil on the planet to the west coast. The question of environmental degradation for socialists and those who look to a socialist future is now of extreme importance. And it's not just global warming. Globally, this system is destroying species on a scale that was unheard of at a previous time. The pollution that is being inflicted just in the form of plastic. You can go to the deepest trenches of the deepest oceans on this earth and still find plastic. Everywhere this system is polluting the planet in a way that is absolutely unimaginable. The reference was made to the choice between socialism and barbarism. And with great respect, I'd have to say that I think we're now in a situation where that's an unduly optimistic way of presenting it. Because what we are talking about is a system now that has reached the level where the very survival of life on this planet is threatened by this system of greed and exploitation that we live under. And so, on Mayday, I think we can look back over the last year and say that we do face a vicious and a terrible and a cruel and a brutal and exploitative system. But everywhere, the working class is raising the banner of resistance. You could give many examples. I could certainly give examples of the struggles that have taken place this year in Iran. But let's just look to the very centre, the heart of the beast, the US itself. Right now, teachers in the United States have organised a rebellion and an upsurge that no one saw coming, that no one imagined would be possible. And yet, formerly conservative teachers in some of the most conservative states in the United States are challenging neoliberal austerity in a way that is incredibly powerful and incredibly important. And right in this city, at the moment, workers at York University in QP 3903 are striking in a landmark struggle that's not just for their immediate rights, but against the redesign of the university as a neoliberal, super exploitative institution. Finally, in bringing Mayday greetings, let me just say that Mayday is indeed a day to look to a socialist future for humanity. And there have been periods, particularly in the historically privileged countries like Canada, where the idea of raising socialism is considered something of a fringe idea. Today, even bourgeois opinion firms are registering the fact that support for the idea of socialism is growing, particularly amongst young people. And millions of people, even in North America, are embracing the idea of socialism and the possibility of socialism. And at this time, when we look at the future, or the lack of future that is being created by this system, it has to be said that the idea of socialism is not an outlandish proposal or a fringe idea. It is a vital necessity for humanity. And on this day, let me say, long live Mayday, long live Clarki. Thank you.